Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Praetor Magic. My name is DM Cross, and I am here with our live podcast for every Monday on twitch.tv/Praetor Magic at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Reflections of the Council. And for this week, and hopefully only this week, I will be actually by myself. Yep. As you can see from the screen, and for those of you out in podcast world, you will not hear Vrexian's voice tonight. He is indisposed, as it were. So you guys are just gonna get me. I'm pretty excited to give this a shot, / a little nervous. So if I drop the ball a little bit, please be gentle in the comments. But I do want to, before we get into tonight's topic, I want to remind you all that we are now sponsored by our friends over at inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Make sure you head on over to there with the affiliate link down below, and make sure you're using your 10% off coupon code Praetor10 PRAETOR10, so that they know that we sent you their way. And of course, you help out the channel by supporting us that way. So thank you very much, of course. So what are we going to talk about tonight, or what am I going to talk about tonight? I guess I should say. We are going to be talking about Throne of Eldraine, of course, right? New set's going to be coming out. It is the fairy tale / King Arthur's court style theme. It's been very interesting because we saw some art very early on, and the art was clear depictions of like certain fairy tales here and there, and I kind of lost my mind with some of the ones because like some of them were relatable into like Disney movies and stuff like that. And my wife's a big Disney fan, and then like most of like Disney movies are Brother Grimm's style stories as well. So I thought that was really cool. And these obviously seem to be leaning more toward the Brothers Grimm style of things. So that was kind of really cool. So I'm kind of excited for the set to come out and to see all the cool stuff. There's been some cards that I've just thought were phenomenal. They were just really funny to do, or to like see, and like see how they worked out mechanically. Like they did the seven dwarves, for instance. I thought that was clever. I like that. I thought that was cool. So it's basically a dwarf character and our dwarf creature, and you can have 7 copies of that creature in your deck because there's 7 dwarves. Like that's funny. Who doesn't like that? That's awesome. So for this particular uh episode of the podcast, I'm going to talk specifically about a certain few legendary creatures, because we're obviously commander based, and obviously legendary creatures are important to us because they helm the decks and they kind of shape the way the rest of the deck's gonna go. So what I want to do is so far there's like 16 legendary creatures in the set, and one cycle has been completely revealed so far, at least as far as we know. If they come out with more, I would be surprised, but it's the monocolored like rare ones, and they are the like lords of their court. So there's like a white court, a blue court, a black court, a red court, and a green court, right? Which is obviously the 5 colors of magic. And then there's a high king, which we'll get into. But I just want to go through the courts, and we'll leave the high king for last, even though I think he's probably really cool, and he made, I don't want to say a stink, but like people were talking about him right when, as soon as he got revealed, just because he seems like he's got a lot of really cool text on him. But I want to go in Wooburg order just for the sake of doing things in a certain way. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is Linden, the Steadfast Queen. So this is a rare 3/3 human noble for white, 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 which is going to be a reoccurring theme. The 3 pips magic are mana pips, which, as everybody should know by now, we're going back to Theros. So there's a very big speculation that devotion is going to be a thing again. And Linden has Vigilance, and whenever a white creature you control attacks, you gain 1 life. So, my honest opinion, and another reason why I wanted to do these in Wooburg order, was that Linden's not super exciting to me. I get the appeal to her. A lot of white decks will be like white weenies decks, for instance. So you'll have a bunch of soldier tokens, or if you were to do a bunch of knight tokens, or a bunch of bird tokens, or spirits, or whatever it is that you want to do, you could basically gain a lot of life just by having a few attackers go out and, their tokens, so you're going to be able to not recur them, but remake them and stuff like that. So you can gain a lot of life. The problem that I have with stuff like this is that this effect is not super new. We've seen this on like enchantments before. We've seen this on all kinds of other things before. So I don't know. For me personally, this is not super exciting. A 3-mana Vigilant 3/3, that's okay. The whole like noble type that they did for Eldraine, because they have had a few of them be nobles instead of like knights or wizards or something like that. So that's kind of weird to me because it doesn't even specifically synergize with a tribe. you could say humans, but humans doesn't have like a lot of tribal synergy. It's usually like soldiers or knights or wizards. Like their class, I guess, their profession is where they get their lord effects from. So like humans is not even really a big EDH tribe. And for this set, knights have been really strong. So even like the nobles are not, they're not knights. So they don't, if there are knight, tribal decks maybe coming from any of these decks, they're not going to get the benefit. So that's kind of weird too. I don't know. Overall, mono white weenies with light gain is not super new, because like there's the Soul Sisters and everything like that have kind of already done it. I guess you then run like your normal stuff like Mentor of the Meek and Skull Clamp so that you're drawing cards. With this, you're getting a life, so maybe you're gonna do like stuff like Will of Lost Dreams or Dawn of Hope so that you can draw cards that way when you're gaining life, everything like that, and that's great. But I don't know, it doesn't inspire me to do anything new or anything cool that hasn't already been done. So I don't really know what else to say about this. I'm sure it will be a pretty cool deck, at least somewhat. Because again, like white's good at going wide, so you just have white creatures and you attack, and then like Aether Flux Reservoir, right? Like you can win that way if you get your life total high enough. You can just start zapping people down. So I guess there it is. It's there. It's a thing. It's real, I guess. But I don't know. Overall, I would say this was probably the one that excited me the least out of all of them. I think I can say that actually very easily. So let's move on to the next one, which is blue, because again, we're going to go in Wooburg order, so white, blue. And it's going to be, whoops. Oh, okay, let's get the cool art. Let's get the cool art on the screen. The extended art, I should say. So Gadwick the Wizened is a human wizard, also a 3/3, which I didn't notice that, but that's kind of cool. For X, blue, blue, blue. Remember, again, you're going to see the triple pips a lot in this particular cycle, probably, again, helping out Theros' devotion mechanic, which I'm assuming is making a return, or some kind of, like, edited version of devotion. His text says, when he enters the battlefield, draw X cards. Whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls. So for this one, I actually think he's pretty cool. He's very blue, casting blue spells and tapping things down, right? So you could just be taking away people's blockers, or you could be doing cantrips at instant speed and be tapping down their potential attackers to kind of keep yourself safe. I like the fact that he's basically a Blue Sun Zenith on a stick, because that's very blue, so that you have these spells that you need to cast to tap things down. So it's very like self-serving, I guess would be the way to say it, right? Like you have to get the card so that you can so that you can cast the spells so that you can do the thing. He's also a human wizard, so he is not a noble like some of the others are. So that's actually kind of weird. I wonder if no, he's got the 3 pips. I was about to say maybe he's not the blue Lord of the Court, and I've completely messed this episode up already. But he has the triple pips. So he's got the blue, blue, blue in his casting cost. So I think he is, but he's the only one. I'm looking at all 6 of them on another screen. He's the only one who's not a noble. So that's really weird. That's really weird. I don't think there's anything super busted you can do with him. I mean, again, he is just a Blue Sun Zenith on a stick that you then have like a control creature afterward. I know Eli Schifrin said that they had to update some of the rules because of something. Like somehow the way the wording was in his draw X cards wouldn't have made sense under the way the rules were previously, but now that they are rewording it or reworking it or errating some of the rules or whatever, it is going to work the way it sounds like it's supposed to work, right? So it's just enters the battlefield and then you draw the cards. I guess because after you've entered the battlefield, the X doesn't matter anymore because there's nothing to base it on at that point, as opposed to when you cast this card. I guess is the main thing, yeah, because normally that would say when you cast Gaddock the Wizened, or when you cast a spell, draw X cards, but it's an ETB with an X on a creature. Okay. I guess. Don't Hydras kind of have... Well, no, they enter with. They would enter with the counter, so that's probably where some of the wording is also a little bit different. So it's kind of weird. It's interesting to see how the set is making it so that they are again, like I guess just adjusting rules or updating rules. So that's kind of cool. But again, nothing super busted about him. Just a really like solid card though for blue, and I think that's kind of cool. I think because a lot of times with blue cards we tend to get super busted things or easily abusable things. So with that, I think it's cool to see a card that's solid and strong and like, just good without being super broken. I mean, he's a wizard, so there's wizard shenanigans that can happen. People already talked about Nabin, whose title I cannot remember, but the mono blue wizard from Dominaria, pairing with him because it's an ETB, right? So Nabin will basically double it, so you could pay 5 and draw 4 and get a 3/3 that can tap stuff down. So if obviously Nabin's on the field. So yeah. I don't really know what else to say because that sums it up, I think. So we're gonna of course move along the Wooburg color pie, and we're gonna go to, I'm gonna say this wrong. I'm gonna warn y'all now. A Yara first of Lockthwain. For those of you in podcast world, I'm looking ashamed of myself. She is an elf noble 2/3 for black, 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 and she says whenever she or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses life and you gain a life. Tap, sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. So one, this is a noble like the other like Linden was, whereas Gadwick was not. And two, it's a mono black wizard. I thought that was really cool. I made a joke, I think, on Twitter that I had found my version of an elf commander because it's a sacrifice based thing. Unfortunately, it's not a shaman, so I can't like auto equip Thornbite Staff and just kind of go off with tap, sacrifice, and untap, and then tap, sacrifice, and untap. But I like the fact that it's a not a blood arts effect. It's a blood seeker effect, but for you. So it kind of speaks to like token creatures. I could see Bitter Blossom running in this deck. I could see actually, yeah. Bitter Blossom's really good because you get the life back from Bitter Blossom. You ping everybody for 1, and it's just an automatic thing. So you break even and you lower everybody by 1, and then you can sacrifice a fairy and draw a card. So uh there's of course just zombie decks. There's some other things that you could do where you're just going to create a whole bunch of little tokens or even just creatures that you want to die that you can then bring back because it's mono black. And yeah, I think this one's gonna be super cool. I also really love the art on this one. Linden's cool. I like her. So the artist Ryan Pancoast revealed, not revealed, but explained that when he did the art for Linden, her dress, her gown. Let me bring her back up on screen for those of you watching. Her gown is apparently dual purposed, where like she can unclip the big collar and the sleeves and the skirt, and she's basically wearing armor with her dress. So, and obviously, for those of you who can see this, she's holding a sword. So she's a warrior in her own right as well. Thank you, Deck Design MTG, for the follow. Appreciate it. So I think that's kind of like a really cool thing to know, especially for like cosplayers. I'm sure somebody out there, I think I even said it on Twitter, should do. There was a what do you call it? There was a video on Twitter that cycled around and Facebook and like social media in general that got really a lot of views of a little girl who was in like Disney World or whatever, and she was dressed as Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And when she spins, she would unclasp something on her skirt, and the dress would like fold out, and she would be in the golden dress from Beauty and the Beast that Belle wears to when she's dancing with Beast in the big like romantic scene. And I said to people, do something like that, but where like you clip something on your armor and it just falls off of you and you're in the armor then. Or I'm sorry, on like the gown part of it, and the gown part falls away and you're just in the armor with the sword. I think that would be kind of cool as like a transformation. Like, don't do the big twirl that the little girl did because this is like a little like 6, 8 year old girl. But just do something where like you can kind of like spin and just shrug everything off really quick in a quick turn, and then bam, go from queen to warrior queen, just like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. Um, I forget how I went. Oh, I was talking about the art. So yeah, I really liked Lyndon's art, mainly because of that dual functionality. The like, I could be the queen in the dress in the courtroom, or I could be the knight who's going to stab you in the face on the battlefield. So, uh, Ayara's flavor text and art go very much together. Her flavor text says, "Morning shifts seamlessly to celebration as she chooses her next suitor." And then in her art, it's her standing on a balcony with like a wine goblet in hand. She's dressed all in black. She's mono black commander, so that might be partially why, but also she is it's almost like black, like from a funeral. So she's almost in like mourning. And then there's a helmet on a pillow in somebody's hands who's like kneeling behind her. So I'm guessing her suitor mysteriously died and she has to find a new one, which means she mysteriously got bored with her suitor and now mysteriously killed him off. Oh wait, I think I did that wrong. But yeah, so this is going to be kind of a crazy one because you can still run Thornbite Staff and have tap untap shenanigans where you're drawing cards and uh you could either sacrifice it to like something like an Ashnod's Altar or Phyrexian Altar for mana, or tap it to Ayara in order to draw cards. And black draws cards find itself. So like you there's just a lot of built-in strategies I can already think of that are really good. Of course, Blood Artist effects for aristocrats. Just general reanimation, put something in the graveyard and it has a really good ETB. See, Gary, Great Merchant of Asphodel, bring it back out with one of your reanimation spells, and there you go. Now you've hit the entire field again for however much. And again, like Gary's a devotion, right? Card from Theros. So between Gary and Ayara alone, that's 5 devotion. So you're going to drain each person at the table for 5 and then gain that much life back. So if you could sacrifice a draw card and reanimate it, so you do that twice in one turn, that's 10 life from everybody. Like you just cut everybody's life in a quarter. That's pretty good just by itself. Just thinking about this, Gary, and some kind of reanimation spell. Doesn't have to be anything super complicated. Reanimate, animate dead, whatever. So that's just the kind of thing that I can think about from here. And again, like you could just do a big token build where you just have tokens to spare to draw cards, and it's just a good value commander. And then you could even have like other kinds of untapped shenanigans, like Staff of Domination or something like that, with enough tokens and like Ashnod's Altar or whatever. You can just you can do a whole bunch just with the mana you generate from the Ashnod's Altar. So the next one is going to be the mono red one, and I'm gonna try not to spell this wrong, even though I have it on the screen next to me. Torbran, Thane of Redfell, is a dwarf noble. I'm excited about that. He's a 2/4. He costs 1 red, red, red. Again, triple pips. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. It doesn't seem at like first glance, because that's not a new effect either, right? I got on Linden to be fair, right? To be equal. I got on Linden because that effect is not super new. The whole attack to gain life, that's not the newest thing in the world for mono white. This is not a new thing for mono red. What I think makes me more excited for Torbran as opposed to Linden, I think life gain in general does not typically excite me more than a way to deal damage, even though life gain is obviously, prevalent in EDH and sometimes it's really important. I think though overall, it's the idea that like people have already started looking at like, oh, what about Pyrohemia? Oh, what about pingers? Just creatures that have the ability tap to deal 1 damage to any target. You now turn them from these little 1 pings to 3 pings. Pyrohemia is pay 1 red mana, ping everything for 3 except for you and your stuff. Because remember, it's whenever a red source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent in opponent control. So it's not going to be you. So like, for instance, Torbran can take 3 hits from Pyrohemia. And that's 9 damage on everything else. Like all your opponents and everybody else. So for 3 mana, you essentially lightning bolt everything and everybody at the table, while you only do like electricity at yourself, right? I think that's really cool. I like the fact that it's a dwarf when we have a set that does have some dwarves in it. They're not super tribal. There's not a lot of dwarf lords in the set, so that is. I mean, there's not a lot of really good dwarf lords anyway, and most of the dwarf lords I think are either in white or red white Boros because of Kaladesh and like Depala and stuff like that. Depala herself having a like 2 Lord effects, I think, on her, because I think vehicles and dwarves get +1/+1, and then I think she has something. I don't know. I don't remember if it was when vehicles attack or when dwarves attack, but regardless, she at least has that 1 Lord effect, I guess I should say. He is another noble, so again, the only non-noble one is Gadwick. Still really weird now that I'm looking at it. I can't stop looking at it now, actually. But again, and then it also kind of, from a flavor perspective, I like the fact that the red one is a dwarf noble, because that does speak to how many dwarves are in this world. Whether we get a lot in cards or not, there's a lot of dwarves in Eldraine. I think that's really cool, because dwarves are like one of those races that we never really got a lot of, which is really weird, because Wizards makes Magic the Gathering, but then they also make Dungeons and Dragons, where dwarves are a very prevalent race. And it was always kind of weird that, like, elves ported over really easily. We have all kinds of elves in, like, so many different colors, almost all the colors, I would imagine. Yeah, because Riss is white. There's blue elves. There's green elves, obviously. There's some red elves because of Gruul, and there's black elves. Yeah, so we have elves in every color, but we don't even have, like, a lot of red dwarves. We have some from mostly way back, and then again recently with, like, Kaladesh, and then there was a couple of other dwarves sprinkled and a few other sets since then. So it's kind of turning around, but the fact that we just don't have dwarves in general, to me, is so weird. Like, why would we not have one of the most prevalent races? Like, we have so many humans, we have so many elves. Why don't we have dwarves? It's the trifecta. Come on. I know this isn't Lord of the Rings, but give me my Lord of the Rings, goddammit. But still, I do like, I like the fact that Lightning Bolt is now as strong as Lava Axe for 1 mana. I think that's really cool. Somebody did suggest to me, this is so dumb. Somebody suggested to me on Twitter, it's dumb, but in, like, the good way. It's in the dumb, funny way, that you could do And My Axe Tribal, playing, of course, again, I just mentioned Lord of the Rings. So Gimli from Lord of the Rings, and he would be your Gimli, and you would just have axe-based stuff. So Lava Axe, Blood Forged Battle Axe could be in there, because if you put it on Torben and hit, he's the one dealing you the damage, even though the battle axes are making his damage more. So it's like he's basically a 4/4, if you think about it. Because every time he does damage, he does 2 more damage, and he's a 2/4. So he's really a 4/4. So I don't know, stuff like that. It was dumb. I don't know. It was dumb, but then I kept thinking about it, and, like, now I'm like, oh man, how many axe cards are there in red and in artifacts? Because red deals really well with artifacts and equipments, right? Like, I mean, they have an infinite combo with Godo and Helm of the Host, which, Helm of the Host on this, on Torbrand, so that you kept getting Torbrands and the abilities would stack. So even if you got 1 off of Helm of the Host, then your Lightning Bolt would deal friggin' 7 damage? That's hilarious. Oh my god, it's bad. I shouldn't even want to do that, but I kind of want to do that. So stuff like that you could do. I am really tempted to go back and try to look at all the dwarves in Magic that are mono red, and then obviously use some of the other supportive cards like Adaptive Automaton and stuff like that. Just to see if I could do Dwarf Tribal. I've already said that I want to build, like, a fairy tale themed deck with the 7 dwarves in it, just because I don't know why. I always hate when cards do that stupid clause, the, like, Relentless Rats clause, where, you can have as many of these as you want in your deck, because I feel like that undermines what EDH is. But something about it being 7 dwarves and it being 7, like, you can't have more than 7. You can't have 8. That's not what the card says. It says you can literally have 7 of these cards in your deck, as opposed to, for obviously standard 4 and EDH 1. Something about that just makes me laugh. And maybe it's because it is dwarves. Maybe it's because it's from, a Disney story or something like that. But something about all of that just kind of made me super smile when I saw the card, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna build this deck. I'm gonna build a fairy tale deck, and I'm gonna put the 7 dwarves in them." I don't know why. Probably because I'm dumb. So this next one is not going to come up on the screen in English, because we haven't gotten the officially translated one, but I believe there is a Scryfall translation. I don't know what his full name is, because Scryfall whoever does the translations for Scryfall has a sense of humor. So it says, Yorvo, he big. He is a giant noble, again, noble. He is a 0/0 for green, green, green. When he enters the battlefield, or I'm sorry, he enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on him. Whenever a green creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Yorvo. Then, if that creature's power is greater than Yorvo's, put a +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. So it almost kind of follows like the Hydra Selvala, the mono green Returned Explorer Selvala. Is that the right one? Damn it. What is that Selvala now? Heart of the Wilds. There we go. Selvala Heart of the Wilds one, where you draw a card if it's the biggest creature to enter the battlefield. So it kind of follows that mentality where you want to have bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger creatures every time they drop down. So sequencing becomes a big deal, but obviously the easiest thing to do is to have X spells where you can pay into the creatures in order to make them as big as you need them so that you can continue to put the other counter. Of course, there's always going to be shenanigans. Doubling season, it would come. Yorvo would enter the battlefield with 8 counters, and then he would get 2 for every activation, and then 4 if the creature's bigger, so he'd be huge. I did notice he doesn't have any keywords whatsoever. He doesn't have trample, he doesn't have vigilance, he doesn't even have reach, which like he's a giant. Now that I think about that, because I just realized that like he doesn't have any keywords. I realized originally that he doesn't have trample. And now that I'm looking, I'm like, he doesn't even have, like, he's a giant. He's a giant noble. He doesn't have reach. He doesn't have vigilance. He doesn't fight things. He literally just gets bigger. He's literally just a big dumb beater. I mean, so he has +1/+1 counters, so there's obviously a couple of ways to give him trample in, just based off the counters. I shouldn't say in mono green, because in mono green, there's a zillion ways to give him trample. So it's not like he's not going to have trample in most of the decks if he is the commander. But it's just really weird. Like, he doesn't have any keyword. Let me go back to... Hold on one second. Okay. Never mind. I was about to say, like... Because I remember Lyndon had vigilance. So I was like, do they all have keywords but Yorvo? And he's a friggin' big giant? No. Lyndon is actually the only one who has any keyword whatsoever. Interesting. Interesting. But yeah, I think he's going to be kind of cool for mono green's stompy decks, quote unquote, even though, again, he doesn't have trample naturally. But it's just going to be really easy, I think, to play him on turn 3. And that's another thing. Like, he's a 4-mana 3/3 that just gets bigger as the game goes on. It's so easy for green to add counters to things. We have proliferate stuff, even in mono green, they got evolution sage now and a couple other things. Karn's battalion, right? Or bastion station or something like that, from War of Ravnica. So then, of course, contagion clasp, contagion engine for just proliferate stuff out the wazoo. So yeah, it's I think he's a solid commander. You just have to find a way to give him evasion, whether it's unblockable through stuff like Rogue's Passage or whatever. It's going to be, and it's another thing I think is kind of cool for him is that he is going to be like a commander damage capable commander. People are going to be like, oh, but he has to attack, and you have to give him evasion. But again, in mono green, evasion is not hard for mono green when you have a big enough creature. Like, that's just reality. The biggest thing is going to be, I think, giving them haste, which, of course, we're talking about commanders. So you have Swiftfoot Boots, you have Lightning Greaves. If you want to spend the pretty penny for your mono green deck and have Concordant Crossroads or whatever, I like the fact that he can go wide or he can go tall. So you can do big creatures or you could do tokens. You can do Sapperling tokens because it's just whenever another green creature. It's not another non-token green creature. So you miss out on the extra counter from if the creature is bigger than him, but you still get the just +1/+1 counter for a green creature entering the battlefield. So any kind of 1/1 token generator that's like a mana sink in mono green that traditionally has a lot of mana because it's mono green and it ramps, is going to be really good in this deck because he's just going to get huge. So I think he'll be pretty good. I think he'll be pretty deadly. I think people will underestimate him at first. So I'm going to call my shot here then, actually, because I did this for M20, I said Kethis is going to be really cool. And everybody's like, no, Kethis is boring. Like, we just have better commanders, blah, 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 blah. And first of all, Kethis is like breaking standard. So I win. Second of all, I've played against Kethis decks already, and they're really cool because they're really resilient, which is crazy to say because I hate it when you have to exile stuff from your graveyard in order to get stuff back or whatever. But it actually, like, I played against a few of these decks, and I have liked what they do every single time. Every single time. So I'm going to call my shot here that Yorvo is going to be the commander that people aren't going to be like super crazy about, blah, 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 but it's going to surprise you how consistent and how strong and how fast it hits. Just like Galta decks. Nobody thought originally that Galta was going to be as crazy as I think Galta wound up being. Because I remember when Galta was dominating the crap out of us in 3DH, in $3 Highlander, because our friend Wild Bull just had a deck where he could just push Galta out like constantly by turn 5 or 6 and then kill somebody out of nowhere. Because it just boom, commander damage, boom, commander damage. It's a big ass 12/12 with trample, so. Yep. All right, so those are all 5 of the monocolored ones. And then the last one is technically monocolored-ish, right? Like, when you look at his casting cost, he's only got white in his casting cost. But I am talking about Kenrith the Returned King, which is another human noble. He's a 5/5, which is interesting, 5. He costs 5, 4 and a white, and he has a bunch of activated abilities. And I'm gonna call this out right now. So the reason I'm sure they did this is because they went in converted mana cost order, so the smallest cost down to the largest cost. Now that I'm looking at it, but it's not in Wooburg order, and it is so obnoxious. Now that I'm looking at it, I can't stop looking at it. But for red, just tap 1 red, 1 mountain. All creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. For 1 and a green, so for 2 mana, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, which goes very well with the Green Lord of the Green Court. The Green Lord of the Green. Oh god. For 2 and a white, target player gains 5 life. Linden gains you life. For 3 and a blue, target player draws a card. Gadwig drew us cards. For 4 and a black, put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So Ayara does not do that at all. But it's interesting because it's a little bit of a political thing. I made a joke when this got revealed. So if you noticed, all creatures gain trample and haste. 1 counter on target creature. Target player gains 5 life. Target player draws a card. Target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner control. So it's all things that you can actually give to people if you play it right. So it potentially is a 5-color group hug deck. Just saying. You can run it that way and be very high on politics. And what I mean by that is you can constantly tell people, well, if you help me with a problem, in game, I will help you by giving you this, depending on whatever it is that maybe they need. So maybe they need life. They're low on life. Maybe they need the creatures to be bigger because they want to attack, but they don't have good attacks. They want to play a bunch of creatures, but then they're worried about a board wipe. So you can give their creatures haste so that they can at least get a swing in before the board wipe, or maybe even kill the person who's threatening the board wipe. Maybe they're low on cards. Maybe they need creatures back, etc., etc. So you can be very political with it. That to me already just sounds super cool and interesting because I like the politics of that come into play with Commander. I did like the idea that I had where there's a variant. It's a 5-person way of playing Commander where it's called Usurper. Some people call it Kingdoms. So there's 5 people with each person has a role. And 4 of those people have a hidden role. There's 2 assassins, a traitor, and a guard. And then the 5th person is the king, where everybody knows who the king is. So the king gets to start with 10 extra life. And it's their job to basically kill the traitor and the assassins and survive. The guard's job is to keep the king alive and help kill the traitor and the assassins. The 2 assassins, it's their job to kill the king. They don't need to worry about anything else. They just need to kill the king. The traitor wants the assassins to die and then for the king to die. So it kind of works like a guard in the beginning because if the assassins kill the king, the traitor loses and the assassins win. If the traitor helps the assassins to lose and then kills the king, the traitor wins. right? So it's a little complicated. And then there's a couple other like minor rules. The only person who can reveal their role is the guard if the king kills them. You can't tell anybody who you are, but if the guard is killed and the king does the killing blow, you can turn around and be like, well, I'm the guard. And then the king becomes a tyrant, discards their entire hand, and gains 10 life. And they're a tyrant for the rest of the game. So it can kind of be good, kind of be bad. So my joke was that you play Usurper or Kingdoms, and whoever gets the king role has to play a Kenrith Return King group hug deck where it's mostly targeted effects that you can kind of control to give benefits out. So like as you feel people are helping you, you can give them stuff. You know what I mean? Like you can even have like Zedru in there with a couple of like bad effects that you could give to people that you think are like your assassins or something. You could have Feldegriff in there to have more like group huggy stuff that you can kind of control, and not just stuff like Howling Mind where you just automatically are giving everybody more cards kind of thing, or like any of the creatures that give the green mana the first main phase or whatever. You know, like you don't just have to run those effects so that it's always symmetrical. Like you want to have, you're the king, you're in control of the kingdom, you want to have control over what you're giving people. So I think that would be like a really cool idea for Usurper, which is again a variant that I really enjoy. And then I also made a joke. There's another variant for 6 people called Emperor, and it's 2 teams, 3 versus 3. The kings or the emperors will sit in the middle, and then their knights will sit on the side. And the way this works is that the knights have to fight each other to get to the king. Like I can't be the right knight and attack the king. I have to attack the person in front of me, and when they're dead, then I can get to the king. I can't cast spells that affect the king. I can't do anything to the king until that guard is dead. So I would think it would be hilarious to have like a Kenrith Return King deck as the Emperor while the 2 guards are there, because you can turn around and be like, here's the king, and I'm just going to do these little things to help you guys out whenever you need, and I'm just here for like support stuff. And you just have like a lot of like big mana and stuff like that, and like some Pillow 40 stuff too, I'm sure. Or like targeted removal, because the kings can affect the enemy knights as well. So something like that would be kind of really cool, I think. Again, I like some of these odd variants here and there. So it's an interesting commander. Again, you don't have to do any of that. You could just have it to where these effects only ever target you, and have 5 color. Just 5 color. Here's all these effects. They're on my commander. It's almost like having a like a bard as your commander, or maybe druid is more what I'm thinking, but like that jack of all trades style character as your commander. Oh, I need to attack, but I just played my creatures. Well, 1 red mana and all my stuff has haste. Oh, I need to attack, but they can chump block. Oh, 1 red mana and all my stuff has trample. Oh, my creatures aren't big enough. Just start putting counters on stuff. Oh, my life's low. I just started gaining life. Oh, I'm out of cards. I just pay to gain life. These are all mana sync abilities, and that's really cool too. So if you can get a way to get a lot of colored mana, or even if you just only have a few colored mana and you can get a lot of colorless mana, you can activate a bunch of these. And of course, it will depend on the situation. And that's another thing I like about him too, is that he's very versatile in the sense that he does all these different things, and they're all very like, you know, color specific. Obviously, red is trample and haste, green is counters, white is the life, blue is the card, and then black is recursion. But because they're all so different, you never know what you're going to need at any given moment, and that then allows you to basically do whatever you need to do in order to, like in that situation, like, oh, I need this creature back because it's important for my next play. Oh, I need to gain life because I'm low. Oh, I need cards. So that to me is kind of really interesting. So you don't have to do the group hug thing. I just am weird and like to do stuff like that, or think about stuff like that. But overall, yeah, you can just have your commander just be like this, sit in the back. I mean, he's also a 5/5, right? Like, he's a 5/5. That's not bad. And a couple of hits, and then you give him, like, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. You put it on him, and 4 hits, and somebody's dead. Ta-da! And you can even give him evasion and haste, right? Like, you could even do a Voltron list, maybe, and just kill with the king. Killer King. King Killer. Oh, no, not King Killer. No, that's the opposite of Whew. Sometimes I say things and like the words are coming out, and like even as they're going past my mouth, I'm like, oh wait, that's not right. Crap, it's out there now. I can't do anything about that. But here we are. So yeah. So there you go. You have Linden, which is going to gain you life as your white creatures attack. You have Gadwick, which is a draw cards and then like tap down shenanigans cantrips style commander. You have Ayara. I don't think that's the right way to say that one. Ayara with creatures entering the battlefield slash creatures leaving the battlefield for benefit and all kinds of shenanigans with that. Torben, who's just going to make all of your red sources deal more damage, whether it's creatures. Like, what if you just want to bash people with dwarves? You have Yorvo, who's just a big boy in and of himself. You keep playing more creatures. They can be little boys, they can be big boys. He's going to be a big boy one way or the other. And then you have Kenrith, which kind of ties all these different things back into him, into like the basics of what they want to do per color. And he embodies all of them. And he gives you a little bit of everything. Would you want to run like Kenrith with all 5 of these in the deck? Probably not, because each of the monocolored ones in Identity, so Linden, Gadwick, Ayara, Torben, and Yorvo, are each triple of their color. So no, you probably don't want to run them all in one deck, because I would imagine it would be hard to cast them at any given time. And there's ways, like nowadays in mana bases and everything, like you could have very easy to get all of your mana colors, and then like Chromatic Lantern obviously solves everything. But just in general, I don't think that's probably the greatest idea. Just saying. But it would be fun. It'd be interesting. I guess if you were going to do like a full kingdom one, like you would kind of have to do something like that. But like each of their effects are tailored to their color. Red source, green creature, blue spell, black creature, white creature. So they're probably better off as monocolored commanders, which I know there are some people who are out there who think like monocolored commanders don't get enough love and everything like that. So here you go. I mean, these are all very good as monocolored commanders, and they reward you for playing one color, because that way you get the most benefit, because you're almost always going to have white creatures minus maybe a few artifacts. You're always going to have black creatures or red sources or green creatures or blue spells. So that's pretty cool too. I like that it's a mono focus set a little bit, while there are still some multicolored stuff like Kenrith. There was a Gruul commander that was revealed. The Brawl commanders that we talked about, I think on the last episode, were 3-color commanders each. So there is some multicolored goodness in there, but it is a set that somewhat looks at how do I make, this color do its thing, right? So that's pretty cool too. So that is going to be it. I know this one's going to be a little bit short, but again, I didn't have Frex in here to kind of play off of, so it can be a little bit hard sometimes doing something like that. I hope you guys still enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ramble on too long or too fast. I know sometimes I talk really fast when I'm trying to get through something, and I apologize if I did that. Of course, if you guys want to join us for the live podcast, make sure you're here at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Praetor Magic. I know that's a little confusing. We were streaming on YouTube for a while. We did change from that. Long story short, the benefits of streaming on YouTube were not worth the comforts that you get from streaming on Twitch. I think Twitch does streaming better, and I think YouTube does uploading videos better. So we're just going to continue to use the tools for what they're needed or what they were designed for, as opposed to trying to like mix and match and blah, blah, blah. Of course, though, still go over to youtube.com/Praetor Magic to see all of our old podcast episodes and all of our old episodes of gameplay, deck techs, and everything else. You can follow us on twitter.com/Praetor Magic, facebook.com/Praetor Magic, and instagram.com/Praetor Magic. You can also chat with us over in the Discord, which there will be a link to in the description down below either the video or the podcast, depending on how you're enjoying this content. And remember that we are still sponsored by our friends at inkgaming.com. Use that affiliate link if you want to get your custom playmats, custom dice bags, custom whatever you want to spice up your experience when you are gaming. You can also order our playmats through there, our Praetor Magic playmats, which are super awesome, side stitched, very, very clean, very snazzy looking. And yeah, make sure you're using that Praetor 10 so that you're saving 10% off your purchase. So even if you're not getting a Praetor playmat, you can go get whatever playmat makes you happy. But until next time, guys, that's all I got for y'all. Oh, I will be doing 3DH streaming will probably start up in the next season because Eldraine is coming. what, next week or something. So I will be re-upping the spreadsheet or the pricing spreadsheet, and then we will have a new season. I will try to design some decks for that season and try to get back into streaming with Phyrexian and some people from the server. Which again, come check out the server, the Discord server is what I'm talking about. In order to enjoy playing with us there, and then starting this Saturday. So if this gets uploaded on Thursday, like it should be, join us on Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/Praetor Magic. I can't tell you what we're doing, but we're doing something different. We're doing something cool. Make sure you're there, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. I know I plan on enjoying myself. If you know, no, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but it will be fun. We will be doing some magic related stuff. There will be more than one of us. There'll be more than two of us. So yeah, stop on by and see what we're doing. Till next time, guys. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.